We have returned for the construction of the ultimate indoor theme park. You guys are not ready for what we're building today. I will tell you that much right now. I wasn't even ready for what I was about to build, if I'm being quite honest. In the first episode, we built the entrance for this theme park, and it's not quite done, but we got the framework. It is rather tall, so you can climb to the very top and get some magnificent views. Let's climb the staircase up here and look over the land we're going to be building on today. So today, we are going to be building the Coaster Pit. It will be a gigantically deep pit full of roller coasters intertwining, twisting and looping around all over each other. It will be a grotesque display of roller coaster entanglement. It might be the most beautiful thing you ever lay your eyes on. So I started off by building a gigantic circular path that would go around the edge of our building. And one thing I also hope they add in Planet Coaster 2 is the option to build path shapes, because it was like near impossible to make this perfect. Fortunately, it doesn't need to be, because I'm going to be altering the path. I'm going to have sections where it's going to deviate anyways. It's just more so to mark it. But I dug very deeply, put in a couple different layers. That way the coaster would have, different sections to be able to sit its supports on. And I filled the very bottom up with a canyon full of water. And the main reason I wanted to have a pit is because I didn't want to have to make the building too terribly tall, because then it would look kind of unsturdy with how wide it is. If we want to have a super high and long coaster drop, it makes sense that we go a bit below the surface. That way we only have to have the chain lift go about half as high, and then it can go down underground practically. Now the next thing we're going to do is build the outer wall. Now this building is going to be a gigantic circle, which is a little bit challenging in Planet Coaster, but fortunately there's a trick that makes it a lot easier to make giant circular buildings. So I built the first section of the wall, and I have a 45-degree angled roof piece with some glass panels on top so we can let natural light in. And let me show you how this is going to work real quick on a small scale. So to make a circular building, we'll take the first wall piece, we're going to mirror it directly across from itself and make sure that it's lined up. Then we're going to go out of build mode and reselect the building, and then we're going to rotate it. And if the corners of the building don't match up, you might need to bring the pieces of the building a little closer or further apart. But if they're lined up correctly, then you should be able to rotate the building and make a full connected circle. This is a small version of what we plan to build, but let me go ahead and delete a few of these pieces. And we're going to place our new walls right back next to the pit and work on some corner pieces, because that's the more challenging portion, is covering the corners. Now real fast, I want to say thank you to all of the comments you guys posted on the first video. You guys gave so many great ideas that I can't wait to implement into this park. You guys really got my brain juices flowing. And I also want to ask another comment question for this episode. Let me know in the comment section below if you have played Planet Coaster before, and if you have you played it on PC, or are you a console player? Because this game is out on PlayStation and Xbox now, which is pretty insane. And if you've never played Planet Coaster, have you at least played the classics? Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, 2, or 3? I need to know where you guys stand with your theme park simulation games. Let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. I've been playing theme park simulation games since I was a young boy, starting with Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, one of the very first video games I owned when I was like 6 years old. I remember playing that game with my dad late at night. Still some really good memories. I played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 a lot at my friend Alex's house growing up. Him and I would mess around. We would build like parks where we would really try to make things look nice, and then we'd build death parks, more so than anything. And then I played Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 a lot at my grandparents' house, because they were the only ones that had a computer good enough in the family to play Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, because it was an advanced game when it first came out. Like, it requires some good hardware for the time. And whenever I bought my own first computers, I always bought Macs, which I couldn't play Roller Coaster Tycoon on. So I never really played Roller Coaster Tycoon again until college when I got a laptop, and I was able to play it on my laptop instead And I remember doing some live streams on Twitch back then, playing the original Roller Coaster Tycoon games again for my first time, and it was so much fun. And then once Planet Coaster came out like 6 years ago, I feel like this has been the main theme park simulation game I've played. And at this point, I think it's the only theme park simulation game I need, although I still love all the other games. Like, they all still have their own charm, art styles, especially Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and 2, made by Chris Sawyer. Like, those art styles are so nostalgic, and those games still hold up. Like, I've played them recently. They're still fun. But we are getting this wall section pretty built up. It's a big chunk of wall, and we're about to duplicate it a lot of times to make the dome that goes over the coaster pit. So these ones are pretty spaced out, but I got the spacing quite right, and we're going to start rotating. Duplicate, rotate. And it's going to take a lot of pieces, but I like the way these walls intersect. The corners weren't the easiest. Making circular buildings this big isn't the easiest, but all things considering, it's also not too bad. I had to get a bit more hands-on with the corner pieces to make them perfectly lined up, but I got the whole entire building built pretty quick. And we're doming out here, that's for sure. This thing is big, and we are going to cap it off with the roof piece as well. It will have a ceiling. We're not going to let the elements inside our dome. It's going to be sealed off, temperature regulated, regulated humidity. It will have the absolute perfect environment indoors because we want to supply the best experience for all of our guests. I want them to feel absolutely immaculate as soon as they walk through the park entrance. And so far, I'm really liking the way this dome turned out. It's looking pretty clean, and I think it might actually give the Dimsdale Dimmadome a run for its money, which I never thought I would be able to compete with the Dimsdale Dimmadome, but we're kind of out here. These corner pieces had me putting in a bit of work, but it didn't take too long. And before I knew it, I created a giant fancy cylinder, and I was very happy with my cylinder. My goal was to make it detailed, but I didn't want to make it too detailed because if I added too many pieces, then it might be hard for it to render. So I tried to find like a good middle ground for it to look complicated, but also not like make my computer chug every time I pull this park up, because we want to build other stuff in the park apart from just the dome. And also when we fill up this building with coasters and rides, you're not even going to pay that much attention to the building. You're going to pay more attention to what's inside the building. As far as the theming is concerned for this building, I'm kind of inspired by a trip I did recently to Yosemite National Park in California. It has beautiful mountains, waterfalls, rivers, and it was just beautiful. So I wanted to try to have this dome themed like Yosemite National Park. And a lot of the nature and architecture is going to match along with that theme. Now I built another roof cap piece and I duplicated it across the dome. And we're going to start rotating it. And the coolest thing about this is it's going to create a circle in the very middle, which we will have as a giant skylight in the very center of the building. We'll just cover it in some glass to make it a giant window. And just like that, the entire building is capped. No cap. That was a lot of work, but it is done. Now we just gotta do some finishing touches to the terrain. Gotta make sure all of these pillars are properly supported with some strong foundations. We gotta naturalize these cliffs, make it look all good and tidy because we're about to be building some roller coasters in this pit. So this pit's gotta be looking good. Better than Brad's pit. It kind of blows me away how fast you can build just gigantic structures in this game. Planet Coaster is so amazing. We gotta make some room for these paths to come through so that people are able to make it into the park. And one of the things I'm super excited for is the view people will have of this theme park right as they enter in. They're gonna go past this zigzag monument we have in this opening entrance, and when they walk around that and peek inside this park, they're gonna be so excited. They're gonna be shoving their ticket inside that ticket receiver as fast as possible and stampeding their way through. Now it's looking really good. But like I said, this is based off of Yosemite, and Yosemite has some amazing waterfalls, so we gotta let it pour. having a gigantic waterfall centerpiece across the dome right as you enter, I think is the final cherry on top of the pie. And then we'll have some secondary waterfalls that connect all of the bodies of water together. And in the future, we will add even more nature like rocks, bushes, and trees. But for now, I'm keeping it quite empty so we can have more room to terraform, because as we place our first roller coasters, we're definitely going to be switching stuff up. But we're just trying to get it as good as we can for now. But we got some wetness inside this dome. That is awesome. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the start of our coaster pit. What type of coaster would you like to see first built in here? Well, actually, let me know what coaster you want built second, because we're going to go ahead and build a quick little coaster real fast. We're going to build a Launch Intamin Impulse Coaster, which is the coaster that boomerangs back and forth between two twisted spires. I thought having this centered along the entrance would be a cool thing to see in the opening. Just a coaster cart twisting back and forth right as you enter. I thought it might be nice to provide some good foreground in this way. And I like this type of coaster because it's like a half coaster. It's like a combination of a roller coaster and a thrill ride. I don't consider it a full coaster because it's kind of short. It's like a thrill ride on steroids pretty much. So you guys let me know, does this count as a coaster inside the coaster pit? Or is the next coaster we're gonna build gonna be the first official coaster? This is some real roller coaster politics right here. It's cute though. We like it. In the next episode though, we will spend some time and build our first beefy roller coaster that's gonna have all the fixins, some loops, some zero-G rolls, some corkscrews. It's gonna be a good time, so make sure you come through to episode 3 to see that. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Make sure, if you haven't, to subscribe to my second channel, Wide Toucan, where I will also be posting other Planet Coaster and Roller Coaster Tycoon related content in the future. You all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.